what do you mean by woke capitalism, Darren? Could you tell us what you mean by that, or what do they mean by that term?
Yeah, look, I don't, I'm not sure exactly what the definition is. You can, like always, you usually, I believe you share different articles,
Yeah.
links. So there's a link that goes through kind of the history of it and who originated that term. But essentially, it's look, it's like the big tech people who seem to care more about, like Amazon. Look at Amazon, like sort of, they have such big, if you like, monopoly type profits that you can afford to sort of like do all this virtue signaling. You can throw money at campaigns, political campaigns for one, but you can also throw all these virtue signaling campaigns. In the US, we're getting them all the time, about how diverse they are and, how they care about, sort of gender identity. They can afford to get involved in the culture wars either directly through, they go like, oh, this is what we're doing inside our company, and this, our hiring policies are this, where they're basically signaling that, they're not hiring on merit as such. They're just hiring based on, the color of your skin, sort of what your gender is, or what you identify as, all that sort of culture war related stuff that, the corporates, have really come out big in favor the past 2 years in particular, but it's been coming for some time. And I think in that particular article, and I would agree, that's a kind of a game you need. That's a rich person's game. Basically, you have to have a lot of, supernormal type profits to afford that. If you're in a company, and in a particular market where your profits aren't supernormal at all, that's pretty hard to sit there and really play that game. Except, look, you could probably afford a small marketing budget to say you're doing that, but you're not really doing it. Whereas I believe Amazon actually is doing it, because I have, our mutual friend, Tim Wanhoff, worked for Amazon, and he can confirm that the hiring practices and people who get promoted in there is not so much based on merit at the moment, or, there's a big degree of not based on merit. So that's part of woke capitalism, virtue signaling, and just not doing like a competitive marketplace would suggest you would be doing.
Yeah. I've heard this term increasingly. I mean, we'll get onto a moment and what it means for, or what monopoly power means for inflation. We'll get onto that. I just want to spend a bit of time on this because it's interesting, because I'm hearing this term more and more, and there's that book Woke Inc., I think it was, and this idea of woke capitalism. Now, they're woke in some ways, but not in others. I mean, Amazon's renowned for how poorly it treats its workers in fulfillment centers, isn't it? I mean, they don't get toilet breaks. They're having to pee in bottles. At least that's what the stories are. And they're paying minimum wage. So they might have these great diversity policies on the one hand, but on the other hand, working conditions at Amazon are pretty dreadful. So,
well, look, I mean, they're probably not dreadful as such in the U.S., but they do. They've gotten the headlines in the U.S. about just they're fighting all these unions around the country to make sure that the wages don't go up. For the people who are on the minimum wage, obviously that doesn't impact people above minimum wage, which is plenty of people at Amazon like that. I'd highlight more the fact that they source most of their stuff from China now, and China is rightfully so infamous for its use of actual slave labor, not the kind of like the pejorative, like, oh, I think you're paying someone too low. They're the actual slave labor where they don't actually get paid, and they're forced to do the job. I think that's actually a even more hypocritical than them fighting in the U.S. against unions about whether the minimum wage should be $15 or $17, right?